Hey again, friends. We're continuing our Advent drawing journey. This day is going to be the next part of our picture. If you've been following along with us, we've been adding something every day, and eventually, by the time we get to Christmas Eve, we're going to have the whole story drawn out of the birth of Jesus. And so far, we started, you'll remember, with God. We just said God's at the center. And we kind of said, no, hold on, there's going to be more to that. But then the G became the body of Mary, the mother of Jesus. And we talked about the angel who came to Mary and said, God's asking you, Mary, will you be the mother of the promised Savior? And along with Mary then comes Joseph over here. Joseph, who we use the letter J to be the inside of his arm. And Joseph goes along with Mary. They're engaged to be married. And so even though this is not what Joseph pictured his life being like either, with a very, very special baby before he's even married, it turns out Joseph comes along and he's going to be a part of the journey as well. And last time we drew in that animal. We imagined maybe that Mary and Joseph borrow or ride a donkey on their journey. But we didn't talk a whole lot about what the journey is. So that's today's piece. This is going to be an easy thing to draw, but I want us to think a little bit about what's going on here. Joseph and Mary, at least the way the story goes in Luke's gospel, were living in a town called Nazareth. It's a pretty small town. In fact, it's so small that a lot of the ancient maps and records of cities and towns we have from the time when Jesus lived don't even list it as an important place. And later on, when Jesus is an adult, somebody hears Jesus is from Nazareth and goes, he can't be very important. Can anything good come out of Nazareth? Well, Jesus comes out of Nazareth after all. But probably Joseph is a builder. There's a big Roman city near Nazareth, and it's quite possible that Joseph worked building things there for the big Roman construction projects, even though he was from a small town. But the emperor, and the story of Jesus takes place during the time of the Roman Empire. The emperor, Caesar Augustus, thought it was a very good idea to make everybody think he was very great and very important and wanted everybody to know how great and important he was. So he declared there'd be a census so he could count how many people in the Roman Empire should pay him tax money. So the rule was, at least the way Luke tells the story, everybody's supposed to go back to their family hometown, where their families and their ancestors would come from, so they can do the counting there. So Joseph, who's from the family of the old King David, who lived long, long, long before, and the way the story goes, Mary's from that family as well, from a different branch of the family tree, going way, 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 way back. They both had ancestry that went back to King David. Well, they go back to King David's hometown. David was from a town called Bethlehem. And Bethlehem was pretty much only famous for being where King David was from. It wasn't all that big a city, but it was a place where an important king had been from once upon a time. So Joseph and Mary are going to have to go on the road from Nazareth down to Bethlehem, where the census is going to happen, where they're going to be, counted, and they're going to have to fill out paperwork, basically, so that they can be counted and properly pay the right amount of money in taxes. So, we're going to draw today just the road. We're going to imagine sort of a long, winding road from up in Galilee, in the region up in the north, where Joseph and Mary were living, down to Bethlehem. And to do that, super easy. We're just going to draw two wavy lines. I'm going to show you how we're going to do it, okay? So wavy line number one. We're going to do this up here in this part of the page, and it's going to sort of work its way toward where Mary and Joseph are. So we're going to imagine that our picture shows them after they've taken this very long journey. So it's almost like if you ever drawn a snake, this is a good way to do it. You can do sort of a big wavy line like that, right? So you can see how the wavy line is pointing us in toward the center. And now, the second wavy line, let me show you. It's going to start out really close to this other line, and as we get closer, it's going to get further and further apart, making it look like the road. Sort of the way when you look off in the distance, things sort of look like they're getting smaller and smaller, and up close they look like they're bigger and bigger. That's called perspective. So we're going to draw our second wavy line, and as we get closer to the center of our picture, our road gets bigger. So you can see our wavy lines start out real close together, and by the time they get to the middle, they're further apart. It sort of suggests that they've been on this road for a long time, and all the twists and turns, they've done it together, and God's brought them safely to their destination. That's an important reminder for us too. This whole season of Advent is kind of like taking a journey too. It's like taking a long car trip or even a long walk. And sometimes when you're taking a long trip and you don't know the roads, or you're going with someone else who's telling you when to make the left turn or the right turn, sometimes it can be scary if you don't know where you're headed, or sometimes your feet get tired. I'm just tired of getting there. Aren't we there yet? And the promise we get both in the Christmas story and in our lives too is that all our life's journey long, God's going with us. So for all the twists and turns that life takes, and sometimes these days it can be like there's a lot of twists and turns, right? For all the twists and turns in life, God's promise is that God's going to go with us, and God is doing something amazing with us, not only on the journey, but also at the destination. That everything is headed somewhere. The story of Jesus' birth is going to be centered on and end with Jesus being born. So I'm telling you right now, Jesus is going to be a part of this picture by the time we're done. But all along the way, too, God's there. God's guiding Joseph and Mary, taking them where they need to be, even though they weren't expecting this, even though this wasn't the way the story was supposed to go. But they trust that God's going to go with them on the way. So as we draw those wavy lines to the road, remember, on this life's journey, God's going with you, too. Thanks for drawing with us. Join us next time.